In a stunning twist that's sending ripples through global defense circles, the United States has officially cautioned Canada against backing out of its massive F-35 fighter jet deal, a deal worth nearly $17 billion. Washington's message was clear: back out now and face the consequences. But behind the political pressure lies something deeper, a quiet shift in Canada's defense thinking. Just days ago, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a major boost in military spending, while also ordering a full-scale review of Canada's contract to purchase 88 F-35 jets from Lockheed Martin. And that raised eyebrows everywhere, because Canada's Auditor General had already sounded the alarm, calling the F-35 program far more expensive than originally promised. Maintenance, training, upgrades, everything was ballooning out of control. Ottawa found itself stuck between two uncomfortable truths: keep paying billions for a jet wrapped in dependency, or start looking for something that truly represents Canadian sovereignty. And that's where the unexpected twist enters. A plane most experts once dismissed as too small, too light, or too ambitious suddenly began dominating headlines: the Swedish Gripen E. From the quiet factories of Sweden emerged a fighter jet that redefined what air power could mean. Not built by a superpower, but by a country driven by innovation and independence. The Gripen didn't rely on size. It relied on smart design, efficiency, and freedom from political strings. It proved a simple truth: greatness in defense isn't measured by how much you spend, but by how boldly you think. And now, as Canada faces one of the most important defense decisions in its modern history, the question isn't just which jet to buy, it's which future to believe in. Because for decades, Canada's air fleet has been flying on borrowed time, and perhaps borrowed choices.
Viewers, make sure to like this video and subscribe to ViperJet Wings. Once the pride of the Royal Canadian Air Force, the CF-18 Hornets had become living relics, ghosts of a different era. Their time in the sky had been honorable, but history had finally caught up. The world had changed. New threats emerged, faster, stealthier, and deadlier. New technologies redefined what air superiority really meant. And suddenly, Canada's aging fleet was no longer a symbol of strength, but of delay. The solution seemed obvious. Across the border, America was proudly showcasing its masterpiece, the F-35 Lightning II. A fighter that looked like it flew straight out of a science fiction film, sleek, stealthy, and backed by the most powerful military on Earth. To many in Ottawa, it wasn't just a fighter jet, it was a statement of prestige, partnership, and alliance. Owning the F-35 meant joining the club of nations that flew with the superpower. But while political eyes were fixed on Washington, far from the noise, in the quiet laboratories of Saab in Sweden, something revolutionary was taking shape. No billion-dollar marketing, no exaggerated promises. Just a team of engineers who believed one simple truth: a fighter jet doesn't need to be the most expensive to be the most effective. Their mission? Build a fighter that embodied efficiency, adaptability, and control. And from that vision came the Gripen. It wasn't designed to conquer the world. It was designed to defend it, smartly, swiftly, and sustainably. Born from Sweden's philosophy of self-reliance, every wire and bolt in the Gripen told a story of independence. A jet built to protect without permission, to operate without dependence. So when Canada opened its global search for a new fighter, Saab entered the race quietly and confidently. Few thought they could compete with America's aerospace giant. But then came the surprise. On paper, the Gripen E didn't just compete, it outsmarted. While the F-35 required massive airbases, specialized maintenance hangars, and armies of technicians, the Gripen could take off from ordinary highways, refuel in minutes, and thrive even in Arctic blizzards. It didn't demand billions in upkeep or political strings attached. And most importantly, it offered complete sovereignty. Every piece of code, every software update, every component would belong entirely to Canada. No permissions, no waiting for Washington's approval. Just pure operational freedom. And in a country that stretches from frozen tundra to endless coastlines, that freedom isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. The Gripen wasn't just another fighter jet, it was a statement. It could land where runways didn't even exist, launch from frozen roads, and refuel in minutes. It was built for nations that needed to rely on themselves, not on others. For a moment, Canada seemed to have found its perfect match, a jet that mirrored its vast wilderness and its independent soul. But decisions like this are never made in isolation. Across the border, Washington was watching closely. The idea that a NATO ally, especially one as vital as Canada, might choose a Swedish jet over America's flagship F-35 was more than uncomfortable, it was unacceptable. Soon, the subtle phone calls began. Briefings turned into discussions, and those discussions quietly became pressure. American officials spoke of interoperability and strategic alignment, words that sounded diplomatic but carried a clear message. Canada should stay in line. What followed was years of delay, debate, and division. Politicians clashed in Parliament. Defense analysts filled screens with charts and arguments, and the public watched, frustrated, as costs ballooned and deadlines drifted into the fog. Eventually, the inevitable happened. Canada announced its decision. It would buy the F-35. In Washington, there was celebration. In Ottawa, relief. And in Stockholm, only silence. For Saab, it wasn't defeat, it was a pause. They hadn't lost faith in their creation. They knew what they had built, and they knew the world would one day see it too. That day came sooner than anyone imagined. During a NATO training exercise in Europe, the new Gripen E, Sweden's most advanced variant, soared into the skies. Beside it, the Eurofighter Typhoon, France's Rafale, and America's own F-35. 4 of the world's top fighter jets sharing the same sky. But what happened next, no one was prepared for.
The competition was fierce. NATO's finest fighter jets, the F-35, the Eurofighter, the Rafale, all took to the skies. Most expected the Gripen E to perform well, but nothing extraordinary. Yet what happened next left military observers speechless. During electronic warfare drills, the Gripen did something no one saw coming. It didn't just evade radar, it toyed with it. Enemy systems tried to lock on and failed. Missiles went blind mid-flight. Radar screens lit up with ghost targets. To pilots watching, it was like facing a phantom, everywhere and nowhere at once. The Gripen E wasn't the biggest or the fastest, but it was smarter. It turned information into a weapon. While stealth jets tried to disappear, the Gripen deceived. It manipulated radar, fed false signals, and jammed communications until no one knew what was real anymore. It didn't hide in the shadows, it rewrote the rules of visibility. In a world obsessed with billion-dollar stealth programs, Sweden had done the impossible, made deception affordable. When word of the exercise reached Canada, it raised a storm of uncomfortable questions. The jet they had once dismissed as too small and too modest had just outmaneuvered the world's elite. Defense experts began asking, had Canada traded autonomy for prestige? Had it ignored the fighter jet that was built for its geography, its harsh climate, its philosophy of independence? The contrast between the two aircraft, the F-35 and the Gripen, had never been clearer. One represented power through dependence, the other freedom through design. And now, the entire world was paying attention. The F-35, hailed as a masterpiece of modern engineering, A fighter so advanced, it seemed untouchable. But there was a catch. Behind the polished metal and stealth coating came strings. Heavy ones. The F-35 couldn't operate freely. Its maintenance required specialized hangars and US-approved systems. Every software update, every mission patch, every line of data flowed through American networks. Even its flight configurations had to be cleared or managed by the United States. To many nations, owning an F-35 didn't mean full control. It meant borrowing power on someone else's terms. But the Gripen E? That was a different story. It belonged entirely to its operator. It could land on a simple road, be refueled, rearmed, and back in the air in under 10 minutes. No giant bases, no permission slips, no waiting for foreign approval. It was designed on one powerful belief: defense should never depend on permission. As stories of its performance spread, something extraordinary began happening. Nations around the world, countries with limited budgets but growing defense needs, started paying attention. They saw in the Gripen something rare, a fighter that didn't just offer modern capability, it offered freedom from dependence. For these nations, the Swedish jet wasn't just a machine, it was a symbol of sovereignty. A reminder that military power doesn't always come from superpowers or massive spending. Sometimes it comes from the courage to think differently. Meanwhile, in Canada, the mood began to shift. Analysts and commentators started asking hard questions. Had Canada traded control for convenience? Had it exchanged independence for access? Every repair, every diagnostic check, every software link tied Canadian defense directly to Washington's approval. The F-35 gave them cutting-edge technology, but it also took something deeper: the freedom to act without permission. For Sweden, it was the opposite story. The Gripen's reputation quietly soared, a model of innovation, affordability, and philosophical clarity. It proved that real strength doesn't come from overwhelming force, but from control, adaptability, and independence. And that is the difference between owning a jet and truly commanding the sky. The Gripen's rise sent a message the world couldn't ignore. A small nation with clear priorities and a relentless pursuit of independence had challenged the military giants. It proved something profound: that intelligence and purpose could rival even the most expensive systems. This was more than just engineering, it was a statement of philosophy. While the F-35 symbolized alliances, technology, and political alignment, the Gripen represented something older, something deeper: autonomy. And that sparked a global debate. In Canada, the discussion refused to fade. Some argued the F-35 was essential, a ticket to stay aligned with the world's superpower, ensuring interoperability within NATO and access to unmatched tech. But others saw it differently. To them, it wasn't a partnership, it was a price. A costly trade of national control for political convenience. Beneath the politics, though, a deeper question echoed. What truly defines strength for a nation like Canada? Is it dependence on a superpower, or the courage to stand apart, to trust your own capability? Sweden answered that question long ago. The Gripen was born not from ambition, but from necessity. From a nation that chose self-reliance over dependency. A nation that built an aircraft not to dominate, but to defend smartly, with precision and control. And in doing so, Sweden quietly forced the world to rethink what true power looks like. What started as whispers in defense circles soon became a storm. As Sweden's fighter began to dominate NATO evaluations and training drills, the once lightweight jet was suddenly being called a masterpiece of modern engineering. And in Ottawa, the silence broke. Parliament debates grew tense. Analysts and former defense officials began to speak out. Had Canada made the wrong choice? Across the country, headlines questioned old decisions. News panels buzzed with experts rethinking their arguments. The Gripen, once dismissed, now looked made for Canada. It could fly from frozen tundras to rocky coastlines, launch from ordinary highways, and function in Arctic cold, places the F-35 could never dream of operating. It needed no massive hangars, no sprawling teams, no dependence on foreign clearance. Just a handful of technicians, and the Gripen was back in the air, ready for its next mission. As these videos spread across social media, the Gripen slicing through snow, landing effortlessly where no jet should, disbelief turned to admiration. The underdog that once seemed too modest had become the perfect fit for Canada's geography, its defense philosophy, and its identity. Public opinion began to shift. Quietly at first, then loudly. And soon, one question began echoing louder than all the rest. Did Canada choose technology over independence? If Sweden could design a fighter this capable, then one question began haunting defense circles everywhere. Why had Canada bound itself so tightly to an aircraft that demanded constant dependence on another nation? How did a smaller country, with a fraction of the budget, seem to understand Canada's defense needs better than Canada itself? Meanwhile, Saab, the Swedish company behind the Gripen, was turning heads worldwide. Brazil expanded its fleet. Hungary renewed its contracts. Thailand entered new negotiations. And across Europe, discussions began, not about raw power or stealth, but about strategy, autonomy, and sustainability. The Gripen had quietly evolved from an alternative into a symbol of independence, a living embodiment of what small nations could achieve when they prioritized sovereignty over showmanship. Within Canada's defense community, the shift was unmistakable. Whispers became words, words became conviction. The Gripen wasn't just competitive, it reflected a philosophy, one that aligned perfectly with Canada's original values: self-reliance, resourcefulness, and quiet strength. Yes, the F-35 had won the contract, but the Gripen? It was winning hearts and minds. News: Sweden offers the freedom we paid to lose. That single headline went viral. It echoed through Parliament, across news panels, and across social media timelines. Because it touched something deeper than politics. It touched identity. Canada was once a pioneer in aerospace innovation. It built jets that the world admired. But somewhere along the way, it began to outsource its confidence. The Gripen represented the opposite, a reminder of what Canada used to stand for: independence, ingenuity, and control. The conversation began to evolve, no longer about performance charts or cost reports. It was now about control. Who truly managed Canada's defense capabilities? Could the nation still call itself sovereign in the air if every upgrade, every system patch, every mission approval depended on foreign permission? The truth was uncomfortable, but undeniable. The F-35 had delivered cutting-edge technology, but it had also cost something far greater: the freedom to act without asking. As its afterburners glowed against the Arctic sky, one message remained: quiet but unshakable. Independence cannot be purchased. It must be preserved, protected, and trusted. And that's the story of a choice that defined two nations, one that bought technology and one that built freedom. What do you think? Did Canada make the right call, or trade independence for convenience? Tell us in the comments below. And if you believe in smart defense and true sovereignty, don't forget to subscribe to ViperJet Wings for more untold stories in global aviation.